The Boston Globe recently reported a missed funding opportunity for pedestrian safety in Boston. Going by official numbers, the level of safety is fairly high in the city, and more reporting could mean less time for other police work. Our guest is with an organization that tries to make the city more walkable with an eye on safety and access. We'd like to welcome from WalkBoston the program director, Dorothea. Thank you very much for being with us, Dorothea.
Oh, thank you very much. We enjoyed this opportunity to talk about pedestrian crashes and what the city's doing.
By one yardstick, we're the safest city in the country for pedestrians.
Yes, we are, and we're very pleased with that. And WalkBoston has been actively working on this issue for almost 25 years, and we'd like to think we're partly responsible for that. Not all, of course, but the real. If you take a look at the safe pedestrian cities, they're nearly all in the Northeast. And that's because we're old cities and we have old roadways that are narrow, they're densely built up. We don't have big, wide open roadways where cars and the signals to drivers are to move very quickly. And that's where you have a lot of pedestrian accidents. So it's really an accident of our history that we're a safe city.
What about the level of underreporting? How much is that?
You know, I really don't know. I was in a meeting this morning with several city departments where this issue came up, and I know that they are taking steps to address this. This is something that the police commissioner is very concerned with, and he's committed to working on it. So there are efforts underway by the Boston Police Department and the Boston Public Health Commission, specifically EMS, to address this issue and come up with a common database.
Well, it stands to reason, too, that if you do reduce accidents involving pedestrians, and if we're talking mainly about motor vehicles and pedestrians, fewer accidents might even be a good thing for car insurance.
Well, I think it would be a very good thing for car insurance, and I think that depending upon the neighborhood you live in, your car insurance is more. And certainly there are more pedestrian crashes in certain neighborhoods of Boston than others.
Now, aside from neighborhoods, what is it that makes a certain location a greater risk for these things?
Well, our number one, it's speed. You know, the number one cause for pedestrian crashes is speed. If you're going very fast, if you're going 45 miles an hour and you hit someone, they have only a 15% chance of living. If you're a driver going 20 miles an hour, they have only a 15% chance of dying. So our goal is to slow traffic. And in general in the city, the locations where pedestrians are hit, the hotspot areas or the corridors, are those where traffic volumes are very heavy and traffic is moving fairly fast, and you also have a large number of pedestrians. For example, Melnia Cass is what we call an arterial roadway. It carries a lot of traffic at fairly high volumes, but there are many walkers along it. So even though it's unsafe for pedestrians, it isn't the location of a lot of pedestrian accidents. So it's more likely that and we know this to be true, we've been monitoring pedestrian crashes in the city for 8 years. We know that some of the arterials like Blue Hill Avenue, Columbia Road, Washington Street, Massachusetts Avenue, we know that those are high pedestrian accident locations.
And I think of Blue Hill Avenue, I think of wide open street, many lanes, sometimes not heavily clogged up, so
right.
The impulse is there to just book it.
It certainly is there to book it, and there have been some serious accidents along Blue Hill Ave. And I also want to point out that there's a lot of bus service on Blue Hill Avenue. At some bus stops on Blue Hill Avenue, the number of riders who board at that bus stop are greater than the number of riders who use some of the less heavily utilized Orange Line stations. So you have bus routes 23, 28, 15, I won't go on, but we're concerned that people are getting killed running across Blue Hill Ave to catch a bus. So,
What about things that make these streets safer? One thing that I'm familiar with is Com Ave near Boston University.
Yes.
It's still very hazardous for bikes, but I remember a time we used to hear about all these pedestrians, and I don't hear about at least serious pedestrian accidents the way I used to.
no, and the city and the university have worked together to make Commonwealth Avenue safer. I believe they've narrowed the streets, and you can do this at least visually through paint. There was a proposal to widen the roadway, especially as it turned over the BU Bridge. A lot of advocates came out and said, no, you cannot have, 2 turning lanes going over the bridge. And the city listened to the advocates, and they only have 1 turning lane over the bridge. So the city, I will say, the city and the university have worked very closely together, and it isn't considered a high accident corridor in the way that it was, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago. I remember some young women were hit in a very unfortunate situation late at night.
I have one question about crosswalks without signalization.
Yes.
I use them a lot. They're confusing for me as a pedestrian. I think they're confusing for some drivers too.
I think they're very confusing, and in some parts of the country they hesitate putting in crosswalks because they feel that walkers don't have a lot of protection. But the presence of a crosswalk signalizes to walkers that they can walk. They don't have a pedestrian signal, of course. But we feel that a lot can be done to slow traffic. Again, I want to emphasize we'd like a 20-mile-an-hour speed zone. That's what New York has just passed. They have a Vision Zero policy of reducing, of having 0 pedestrian deaths in the city. So if you warn drivers there's a crosswalk, you can also put in the roadway something we call a sandwich board. And that's a fixture on the street that's portable that warns drivers they must yield to pedestrians. So there are a lot of things you can do in it, and we also don't want a lot of travel lanes zooming over those crosswalks. Also, the sight lines are very important.
So what about that missed funding? If Boston had more of that, or if things change enough where Boston can get the money, what kind of things could we see?
Well, if Boston can get the money, and I'm not privy to those details as to why they didn't get the money or the lost opportunity. But certainly, as we go through this, we need to know the specifics of how the pedestrian accidents happened. Did they happen because drivers were taking left-hand turns that conflicted with pedestrians? Are the curb radii too flat, meaning a car can go around the corner very quickly? What is the real problem? And we can't, when we go to the traffic engineers and we say it's a dangerous intersection, they will say to us, well, we know it's a dangerous intersection, but we're not exactly sure what to do because we don't know how this accident happened. Can you get us more information? And so that's what we're very hopeful will come about with his various city agencies working together to come up with that information. So I think, it will provide a blueprint for us in terms of where to devote the city's resources, and so we'll know, not just where that money should be spent to improve pedestrian safety, but how we can modify the roadway.
Well, I know you have a lot of projects going on at WalkBoston, so if people want to find out, they can go online and...
Yes, yes, WalkBoston.org, and we'd welcome any suggestions at all. We are an advocacy organization with 500 members, both individuals, nonprofits, corporate members, and we feel our strength is in our numbers and in our advocacy and in all of those Massachusetts residents out there who want to have safe streets and to have walkable communities.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Dorothea Haas from WalkBoston. We'll have more news in just a moment.